So we talked a little bit about PyCharm getting things loaded up. Honestly, what I'm going to just do is kind of run you through an old project of mine. Let's do this part. And so this project that I'm going to have pulled up here is actually a Django project. It's something you guys will work on at the very end of the semester. But the idea is to show you everything that is in the system so that you can see how you would upload it, push it, that kind of stuff. Actually, instead of this one, let's use the Hayland one. That'd be great. Okay, so again, a little bit of a tutorial on where you're at. Over on the left-hand side, you're going to see this project folder. This is where all the files that are for your program are going to be. So if we click these drop downs here, so we can clean it up a little bit, you're going to see any folders you have under your main header up at the top. So this will be whatever your folder is. And then you'll have your subfolders. If anything is red, it's not going to commit that out to GitHub. Okay. That it's going to ignore it by default, or I have to set up a get ignore. Which in this case, if you look up here at the top, it says right here, there's no get ignore file in this Git project. So I would want to create one. If I hit create get ignore, then I can come over here and tell it everything I want to ignore, right? So what I would probably do is come down and I would pick out Python. There we go. So pick PyCharm, and what that's going to do is make sure that you don't commit your workspace settings, aka don't commit all your PyCharm.idea files out to your GitHub. You don't want to commit that, right? That's your local settings. So you click PyCharm, you can do PyCharm all and make sure it gets it. Python you could add in there. What that's going to do is make sure it doesn't commit any of your PyC stuff. It doesn't commit your virtual environment, nothing like that. It just makes your clean project. You may want to do like config files and things like that so that they're not committed, etc. So if you hit generate, it's going to add this file called getignore, and it's going to ignore anything that has this file type. And later on down the road, we'll describe how to do some of this, but you may do something like anything that's called .config. Don't save that. So, you know what I mean? Hit save here, and that will not allow you to commit your config file out to GitHub. And that config file is where you would store like API keys, username, passwords, stuff like that. You don't commit that to GitHub. Yeah. So, yeah. It's just a file that sits over here. It's called, it starts with a period, and then it's just get ignore. And that's common. When you go to commit some stuff, it will automatically send it up and do that. And we'll go into way more detail on that. Let's see, other things that you're going to see in a project, you'll have this requirements file. This requirements file, which I'll show you guys how to generate when you do your first project, is a version of all the pip packages that are installed for that and a very specific version. So the benefit of doing that is when I come down here and I check your stuff out from GitHub, I run pip install -r and then the name of your requirements file, it automatically installs the correct ones. If I just manually go pip install pandas, go pip install numpy, well, and we had this last semester, by the time I do it and I check out your files, they updated the package and broke all your code. Exactly. So what I do is when I check out your project to grade it, I run pip install requirements immediately and it installs all the packages you told me I need to have installed. And it specifically tells you what version. So how do you do this? Again, we're jumping way ahead, but if you're out here in your virtual environment down at the bottom, you can do what's called pip freeze. And pip freeze is going to give you the output of every package and what's installed. All right. And if you want to save that to a file, you just say pip freeze, and then you do greater than, and in this case, we would call it requirements.txt. That's the universal one that everybody uses. I'm going to call it something.txt just to show you. Hit enter. And at that point, you'll know something.txt pops up over here on the left. It is red because we are not committing it out just yet. And if we looked inside that file, you would see all those required versions inside of there. All right. Again, we'll walk through this on all your homework assignments. I'm just trying to get you a layout of everything inside of here. Let's close this down. Okay. Other things you guys may have as it goes through there, you'll see this SQL db.SQLite 3. That is the database that I have for my project. If you guys want to upload your database, you can do that to GitHub, but there may be a reason for you not to do that, right? In other words, if you have a bunch of sensitive data in there, but they should be checking out your project and adding their own data, then you would want to make sure that your SQLite database is never submitted to GitHub. Then what that means is when I go to run your project beforehand, I have to run the commands that creates a new database and then runs that through, right? Again, we'll talk about that in more detail in the projects. What else do we have in here? Like I explained down here at the bottom, you have your Git and everything you're pulling down there. You have to-dos. So if you code out to-dos, and you guys can read a little bit more about how to-dos work. So if in your code you use the text phrase TODO, all in caps, it will analyze all the to-dos that are listed in your project, and that way you can go through here and check to see what's in there. So it's really slick to help give you notes as to, I need to come back to that, or you start a line of code, but it's not working, put a to-do on it so it can come back and check it. Problems, it's going to analyze everything inside your code, make sure it's running correctly. Terminal is where you will pip install packages. You also have the option of going to Python packages at the bottom. So click on it, there we go. And if you look at the installed, it would show you all the ones that are installed. I can also do a search here. So if I search for pandas, I can see that it's there and I can click install and do it that way. So it's like the GUI way of doing pip install. What's nice about this is it's going to give you documentation about it so you can read it. Otherwise, you would have to go do a Google search for pandas, right? Find this and get the documentation. You can pull the documentation right here in PyCharm, which is really, really handy. All right. You have the console. You'll be interacting with that if you need to interact with your program live. And then services, there's nothing we're really going to use in this class on the services side. All right. Outside of that, that's probably it till we get to the database stuff, and I'll explain a little bit more. But that's kind of the general outlay. I encourage you to go out, go to GitHub, find a cool project. Doesn't matter what it is, find a cool project. Learn how to check out that project by going up here to File. If you have this window open, go to Close Project. Go to Git from VCS, and then copy and paste that GitHub URL in there. Check out the project and look at the code inside PyCharm. All right. That way you're used to checking out other people's code, knowing how it works within PyCharm, etc. Everybody understand how that kind of works? All right. Like I said, next week we're going to be working with APIs, going out to search and play with some stuff. So there's no reading, no prep for Tuesday. Just show up and we're going to kind of go through. And honestly, the first 3 weeks are a little bit of playing, so you guys get familiar with this, because for some, we're making this huge jump from lower level Python to all this other stuff that we've never even talked about. And that's the whole point, right? You're now in advanced. So we'll get a chance to play around, write a little couple scripts, and then you'll get into the homework phases, just so you guys can see what's in there. So next week on Tuesday, or next week in general, we're going to be talking about object-oriented programming, kind of refreshing that. You guys are welcome to go out there and read that. This is the same OOP that you guys had from INF601, but you should be refreshing yourself on how to do object-oriented stuff, because that will really matter in this class. You're going to be dealing with a lot of objects. And then, like I said, we will jump into APIs and how to play with stuff. I'll talk about it more when we get there, but there is a website called rapidapi.com. And so go out here and peruse. This is like a massive collection of APIs across the internet. Some of these you have to pay for, some of these you do not. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's kind of cool. If you go through here, you can look at, I don't know, top movie APIs. And then from the movie APIs, you can figure out which one of these you like. So maybe you want to grab the movies database, and maybe you want to build a project of getting every movie from a particular actor, or you want to get something that starts in this year, etc. You can use queries to pull that information. That's what we're going to start coding next week. So when I tell you guys you can go out and use any API, like there is a ton of APIs. Some are free, some you have to pay for. You guys can choose what you want to do. I'm not requiring you pay for APIs. There's too many free ones out there to have to do that. There's lots of other. If you have a very specific project that has an API that you want to pull from, by all means, that's fine. It does not have to come from Rapid API. Like, this was usually one where people can search around and go, oh, that'd be kind of fun to play with. All right. That is a little bit more of what we will be covering on Thursday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. I'm thinking about my other classes. Yep. So again, in the order of things, we're going to use APIs next week and the week after that. Then we're going to jump into NumPy and SciPy, and then start jumping into data frames and pandas and Streamlit and the whole 9 yards. All right. You guys can't see this yet. You'll just see week 1. On Sunday, week 2 will get released. You guys can use that to go out and learn, refresh yourselves on object-oriented programming. See, Adam, you got any questions? Either Adam. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm good.
All right, I'll stop the recording here. Again, today was mostly about making sure everybody got their GitHub stuff up and running. Make sure you have an account and it's going, because we'll hit the ground running next week. So I'll stop the recording.